Jake Morrison stood at the big window of the spaceship and watched his home planet die. Earth was burning. Red and orange flames covered the cities where he used to walk. The alien ships looked like dark birds flying around his world, shooting deadly beams that turned everything to dust. He held a small data chip in his hand. His fingers were shaking. This tiny piece of metal held something very special. It had videos from the year 2019. Videos of people making music on the streets. One video showed a young girl named Karolina playing violin on a street corner. She played a song called Lambada, and people stopped to listen. They smiled. They danced. They forgot their problems for a few minutes. Jake remembered watching that video many times when he was young. Back then, he thought street music was just for fun. Now he knew it was much more. It was hope. It was joy. It was what made humans special. The ship shook as more explosions came from Earth. Jake closed his eyes and tried not to cry. Behind him, other people were crying. Men, women, and children who would never see their home again. 50,000 humans were on this ship, and others like it. That was all that was left of the human race. Captain Lisa Martinez walked up to Jake. She was in charge of keeping everyone calm and safe. Her job was very hard these days. "The other ships are ready to leave," she said. "We need to go now." Jake nodded but did not move. He kept looking at Earth. "Do you remember street performers?" he asked. Lisa looked confused. "What do you mean?" "People who played music on streets. They set up on corners and played for anyone who wanted to listen. Some people gave them money. Most people just walked by, but sometimes something magic happened. The music would make strangers stop and smile at each other. It brought people together." "Jake, we really need to leave," Lisa said. She was worried about him. "The Zephyrians destroyed everything." Jake said, "Our cities, our forests, our oceans, but they could not destroy this." He held up the data chip. "They could not destroy our music, our joy, our ability to make each other happy." The alien attack had started 6 months ago. The Zephyrian Empire wanted Earth's water and minerals. They did not care about the people who lived there. To them, humans were just bugs to be removed. The human military fought hard, but their weapons were too weak. Their ships were too slow. In the end, they could only run away. Now they were refugees with nowhere to go. Every alien government in the galaxy said no when humans asked for help. They said humans were too primitive, too violent, too different. No one wanted them. Jake looked at the data chip again. In the video, Karolina played her violin with such happiness. People from different countries and different languages all enjoyed the same music. A businessman in a suit stood next to a teenager with blue hair. An old woman clapped next to a young mother with a baby. The music made them all the same for those few minutes. What if that is our answer? Jake said, "What answer?" Lisa asked, "What if music is how we survive? What if we show the galaxy what humans really are? Not through fighting, but through this?" He held up the chip again. Lisa thought Jake was losing his mind. "Jake, we need food and water and a safe place to live. We cannot eat music. But we can live because of it." Jake said, "Look what happened on Earth. When things were bad, when people were sad or angry or scared, music made them feel better. It brought them together. Maybe it can do the same thing with aliens." The ship's captain spoke over the communication system. "All passengers, we're leaving Earth now. Please take your seats." Jake took one last look at his burning planet. Then he put the data chip in his pocket and walked away from the window. As the ship flew into deep space, he made a decision. He would find a way to share human music with the galaxy. He would show them that humans were not just another violent species. They were the species that made beautiful sounds in dark times. They were the species that played music on street corners just to make strangers smile. The Zephyrians had destroyed Earth, but they had not destroyed the human spirit. That spirit lived in every song, every dance, every moment when music brought people together. Jake did not know how yet, but he would use that spirit to save his people. He would turn the entire galaxy into one big street corner where everyone could hear the music of hope. 3 months had passed since Earth died. The human ships floated through space like lost birds looking for a place to land. Jake Morrison sat in his small room staring at the same data chip he had held while watching his world burn. The video of Karolina playing violin still made him feel hope, but that hope was getting harder to hold on to. Food was running low on all the ships. The recycling systems were breaking down. Children were getting sick. Every day, more people asked Jake the same question. Where would they go? Lisa Martinez knocked on his door. "Jake, you need to see this," she said. Jake followed her to the main deck, where a huge structure floated in front of them. It looked like a city made of metal and glass, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Lights covered every surface, and hundreds of different types of ships moved around it like busy insects. "What is that?" Jake asked. "Nexus Station," said Commander Ryan Brooks. He was the military leader of their small fleet. "It is the biggest trading post in this part of the galaxy. Every alien species comes here to buy and sell things." Jake watched the alien ships. Some were long and thin like snakes. Others were round like bubbles. A few had wings even though they flew in space where wings did not work. Each ship was different, just like the species that built them. "Can we ask them for help?" Jake asked. Ryan shook his head. "We already tried. They said no. The station manager is a crystalline named Vex 9. He told us that humans are not welcome. He said we are too new, too dangerous, too different." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "Different? What makes us so different?" "Everything," Lisa said sadly. "The way we look, the way we think, the way we live. Most aliens think we are just primitive animals who learn to build spaceships." Jake looked at the data chip in his hand. On Earth, Karolina had been different too. She was young when everyone else was old. She played violin when others played guitar. She was from Ukraine when the crowd was from many countries. But her music brought them all together. "What if we show them who we really are?" Jake said. "How?" Ryan asked. "They will not even let us dock at their station." "Music," Jake said. "What if we play music for them?" Ryan laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Jake, they need to see that we are strong and smart. They need to respect our technology and our weapons. Music will not help us." "Music helped us on Earth," Jake said. "When people were different, when they could not understand each other's words, music brought them together. Maybe it can work with aliens too." Lisa looked interested. "What do you mean?" Jake held up the data chip. Street performers did not have fancy concert halls or expensive instruments. They used whatever they had. They set up on corners and played for anyone who would listen. Some people ignored them, but others stopped and listened and remembered that music makes life better. "You want to have a street performance in space?" Ryan asked. He thought Jake was crazy. "Why not?" Jake said, "What else do we have to lose? We are already dying out here. At least this way, we might show them that humans are not just another violent species. We are the species that makes music when everything is dark." Lisa began to understand. The station has a central plaza where all the different aliens meet. It is like a big street corner. "Exactly," Jake said. "We asked for permission to perform there. We show them what human street performance looks like. We show them our music, our joy, our ability to bring people together." Ryan was not convinced. "And what if they laugh at us? What if they think we are even more primitive than before? Then we will be no worse off than we are now." Jake said, "But what if it works? What if our music touches something in them that weapons and technology cannot reach?" Jake thought about all the street performers he had seen in his life. They were brave people who shared their hearts with strangers. They did not know if people would like their music or give them money or even stop to listen, but they played anyway because music was too important to keep to themselves. "I will send a message to Vex 9, Jake said. "I will ask for one chance to show him what humans really are, not through fighting or trading or begging, but through the thing that makes us most human." Lisa smiled for the first time in months. A street performance in space. Karolina would have loved that idea. Jake looked at the spinning station full of alien strangers. Soon, he hoped, it would become the biggest street corner in the galaxy. The message came back from Nexus Station 3 days later. Vex 9, the crystalline station manager, had agreed to let the humans perform, but his words were not kind. Your species may display your primitive cultural expressions in the central plaza for exactly 1 hour, the message said. This will serve as proof to the Galactic Council that humans have nothing meaningful to offer civilized society. After this demonstration of your limitations, you will leave this sector immediately. Jake read the message to the group of humans who had gathered in the main meeting room. Some people looked excited. Others looked scared. Most looked like they thought Jake had lost his mind. Commander Ryan Brooks stood up. "This is a mistake," he said. "We should be using our time to find a planet where we can settle. We should be looking for work or trading our technology. We cannot eat music, Jake. We cannot live in songs." An old woman named Betty Clark raised her hand. "My grandson loved music," she said. "He died when the Zephyrians attacked Earth. Maybe Jake is right. Maybe music is the one thing they could not destroy." Ryan shook his head. "We have 50,000 people on these ships. They need food and water and medicine. They need hope for the future. How will playing music help them?" Jake thought about this question. It was a fair question. But then he remembered something from the old videos. "Do you know why street performers played music?" Jake asked. "It was not just for money. It was because music reminded people that life was worth living. When people were sad or scared or angry, music helped them remember that tomorrow might be better." Lisa Martinez had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke. "I was a music teacher on Earth," she said. "I taught children how to play instruments. Music did not give them food or shelter, but it gave them something else. It gave them joy. It gave them a way to express feelings they could not say with words." An engineer named Pete Williams stood up. He was an older man with gray hair and dirty hands from working on the ship's machines. "I have been listening to Jake's idea," he said. "We do not have real instruments anymore. They were destroyed with everything else. But I have been thinking, what if we made new ones?" People looked at Pete with confusion. "How?" someone asked. Pete smiled. "Street performers on Earth used whatever they could find. They played on empty cans and broken guitars and homemade drums. We have metal scraps from the ship repairs. We have wires and tubes and materials. We could build instruments." A young woman named Carol Davis laughed. "You want to turn spaceship parts into violins?" "Why not?" Pete said. "The music does not come from expensive instruments. It comes from the heart of the person playing them." Jake felt excitement growing in his chest. Pete is right. In the old videos, some of the best performances used simple instruments. What mattered was not what they played, but how they played it. Ryan was getting angry. "This is crazy. We are refugees running for our lives, and you want to have a concert." "No," Jake said. "I want to have a street performance. There's a difference. A concert is about entertainment. A street performance is about connection. It is about showing strangers that you are human just like them." Lisa stood up. "I will help," she said. "I remember how to teach music. I can help people who have never played instruments before." Pete nodded. "I will start building instruments tomorrow. We have 3 weeks before we reach Nexus Station. That should be enough time." More people began to volunteer. A man named Tony Kim said he remembered how to sing. A woman named Linda West said she could teach people to dance. Even some of the children said they wanted to help, but not everyone was happy. Ryan and several other people walked out of the meeting. They thought Jake was wasting precious time and resources on a foolish dream. That night, Jake sat alone in his room, watching the video of Karolina again. In the video, she played her violin on a busy street corner. Some people stopped to listen. Others walked by without looking. A few people put money in her violin case. But Karolina kept playing with a smile on her face because she knew that music was its own reward. Jake understood now that the coming performance at Nexus Station was not really about convincing the aliens to help them. It was about reminding the humans who they were. They were not just refugees or survivors or victims. They were the species that made beautiful sounds when everything was ugly. They were the people who shared their hearts with strangers on street corners. Tomorrow, Pete would start building instruments from spaceship scraps. Lisa would start teaching people to make music, and Jake would start planning the most important street performance in human history. The central plaza of Nexus Station was bigger than Jake had imagined. It looked like a giant circle made of glass and metal, with shops and restaurants all around the edges. Aliens of every shape and size walked through the space, talking in languages that sounded like music, buzzing, or grinding metal. Jake stood at the edge of the plaza, holding a violin that Pete Williams had made from ship parts. It did not look pretty, but when Jake tested earlier, it made beautiful sounds. Lisa Martinez stood next to him with a group of 20 other humans. Some held instruments made from metal scraps and wire. Others were ready to sing or clap or dance. Hundreds of aliens had gathered to watch. Most of them looked curious, but not friendly. Jake could see Zephyrian soldiers in the crowd. They were tall and gray with cold eyes that showed no emotion. Near them stood a group of crystalline beings that looked like walking diamonds. Their bodies caught the light and threw rainbows across the plaza floor. Vex 9, the station manager, spoke into a device that made his voice echo through the plaza. "The human refugees will now demonstrate their cultural capabilities," he said. "This display will last exactly 1 hour. Observers are reminded that this species seeks sanctuary but has been deemed unsuitable for galactic citizenship." Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was it. One chance to show the galaxy that humans were worth saving. He looked at Lisa and nodded. Lisa raised her violin and began to play. The song was Lambada, the same melody that Karolina had played on the streets of Earth so many years ago. But this version was different. It was slower and sadder, like a memory of something beautiful that was lost. At first, the aliens just stared. Some made clicking sounds that might have been laughter. Others whispered to each other in their strange languages. Jake worried that the performance was failing before it had really started. But then something changed. A young alien that looked like a purple octopus began swaying to the music. Its tentacles moved in rhythm with Lisa's playing. Near the edge of the crowd, a creature that looked like a tree covered in silver leaves started making soft humming sounds that matched the melody. Jake joined in with his own violin. The sound was not perfect, but it was full of feeling. He thought about Earth and all the people they had lost. He thought about the children on the ships who would never see their home planet. He played all of those feelings through his makeshift instrument. Tony Kim started singing. He did not sing words, just sound that went with the music. His voice was deep and warm, and it seemed to fill the empty spaces in the plaza. Soon, other humans joined him. They sang in harmony, their voices blending together like colors mixing on a painter's canvas. The aliens in the crowd began to change. The ones that looked like purple octopi started making rhythmic sounds with their tentacles. The tree-like creatures hummed louder. Even some of the cold crystalline beings began to vibrate in ways that created new musical tones. Jake could not believe what was happening. The aliens were not just listening to the music. They were joining it. They were adding their own sounds and movements to create something bigger than what the humans had started. A small alien that looked like a furry blue cat began dancing. Its movements were strange but beautiful, like it was swimming through the air. Other aliens saw this and started moving too. Soon, half the crowd was swaying or dancing or making music in their own ways. The Zephyrian soldiers looked uncomfortable. They were used to controlling everything through fear and force. But they could not control music. They could not arrest a melody or shoot a song. Lisa played louder and faster, and a lambada rhythm filled the entire plaza. Humans and aliens danced together, creating a celebration that none of them had planned. The music built and built until it felt like the whole station was singing. When the song finally ended, the plaza was completely quiet. Humans and aliens looked at each other with surprise and wonder. For those few minutes, they had all been part of the same thing. They had all shared the same joy. Then something amazing happened. The aliens began to clap. It was not the polite clapping of a formal audience. It was the excited clapping of people who had just experienced something magical. Vex 9 looked confused. His plan had been to let the humans embarrass themselves and then send them away. But instead, they had created the most beautiful moment in Nexus Station's history. Jake smiled and held his violin high. The first step was complete. Now the real work would begin. Jake Morrison could not sleep that night. The performance had ended hours ago, but his mind kept replaying every moment. The way the purple octopus aliens had moved their tentacles like they were conducting an orchestra. The way the tree-like creatures had hummed in perfect harmony. The way even the cold crystalline beings had started to vibrate with musical tones. But the most amazing thing was what happened after the official performance ended. The aliens did not leave. Instead, they stayed in the plaza and kept making music. They taught the humans their own songs, and the humans taught them Earth melodies. Languages did not matter. Everyone understood the rhythm. Lisa Martinez knocked on Jake's door early the next morning. "You need to see this," she said, holding up a small device. Jake followed her to the communication center of their ship. The screen showed news reports from across the galaxy. Every channel was talking about what had happened at Nexus Station. The human street performance has been broadcast over 300 worlds, the ship's communication officer explained. Someone recorded it and sent it to the galactic network faster than we thought possible. Jake watched the screen in amazement. The video showed the exact moment when the aliens started joining the music. He could see the wonder on every face, human and alien alike. The footage was being played on news stations, entertainment channels, and even government broadcasts. Who recorded it? Jake asked. A young voice behind him answered. "I did." Everyone turned to see a small alien standing in the doorway. It looked like a lizard that walked on two legs, with bright green scales and large golden eyes. Jake recognized it as one of the Zephyrians, the same species that had destroyed Earth. Lisa reached for her weapon, but Jake held up his hand to stop her. "My name is Clicks," the young alien said in broken English. "I am engineer on Zephyrian ship. I was at performance yesterday. I have never heard anything like human music before." "You are the enemy," Lisa said angrily. "Your people kill billions of humans." Clicks looked sad. "Yes, my people did terrible things. But I am not my people. When I heard your music, I understood something. Humans are not primitive. Humans are not dangerous. Humans are beautiful." Jake studied the young alien's face. He could see genuine emotion in those golden eyes. "Why did you record our performance?" "Because I wanted others to see what I saw." Click said, "I wanted them to understand that destroying humanity would be the worst mistake the galaxy ever made. So I sent the recording to every network I could access." The communication officer pointed at the screen. "The recording is spreading faster than any government can stop it. It has been viewed by over 2 billion beings in the last 12 hours. Jake watched as the news showed reactions from different planets. On some worlds, aliens were trying to copy the human music. On others, they were mixing human melodies with their own traditional songs. Children of different species were dancing together to the Lambada rhythm. But not everyone was happy about the music. The screen showed angry Zephyrian officials demanding that the recording be banned. They said human culture was dangerous and would corrupt the proper order of galactic society. "My commanders are very angry with me," Click said. "They know I sent the recording. They want to arrest me for treason." "Then why are you here?" Lisa asked. "Because I want to help," Click said. "The music showed me that there's a better way than conquest and control. I want to learn more about human culture. I want to help spread it to other worlds." Jake looked at this young alien who was risking everything to help them. It reminded him of the street performers back on Earth who shared their music even when they had very little for themselves. "What do you think will happen now?" Jake asked. Click smiled, and Jake was surprised to see that the expression looked almost human. "I think the galaxy will never be the same. Your music is like a virus, but a good virus. It spreads from person to person, making them happier and more connected. My people can destroy planets, but they cannot destroy an idea. And the idea that different species can make beautiful things together is very powerful." Over the next few days, more aliens came to visit the human ships. They brought their own instruments and taught the humans new songs. They shared stories about their worlds and cultures. Some of them offered to help the humans find a new home. Jake realized that their simple street performance had started something much bigger than he had imagined. They had not just entertained the aliens. They had shown them a new way of thinking about the universe. Instead of seeing differences as threats, they could see them as opportunities to create something beautiful together. The Lambada rhythm that had once echoed through the streets of Earth was now echoing through the stars, bringing hope to beings who had forgotten what hope felt like. The attack came without warning. Jake Morrison was teaching a group of alien children how to play human melodies when the alarm started screaming across Nexus Station. Red lights flashed everywhere, and a voice announced that all beings should find shelter immediately. Jake looked through the window and saw them. Dozens of Zephyrian warships surrounded the station like angry metal sharks. Their weapons were charging, ready to destroy everything in sight. "They found us," Lisa Martinez said as she ran into the room. The Zephyrian Empire sent their entire battle fleet. They want to stop the music from spreading any further. Commander Ryan Brooks appeared on the communication screen from the human ships. "Jake, we need to leave now. Our ships are no match for their weapons. If we stay, they will destroy us all." But Jake was not listening to Ryan. He was watching the alien children who had been learning human songs. They looked terrified. Some were crying. Others were holding on to their makeshift instruments like they were precious treasures. "No," Jake said. "We are not running away this time." "Jake, be reasonable," Ryan said. "We cannot fight an entire fleet." "You are right," Jake said. "We cannot fight them with weapons, but we can fight them with something else." Jake grabbed his violin and ran toward the central plaza. Lisa and several other humans followed him. When they reached the plaza, they found chaos. Aliens were running in every direction, trying to find places to hide. Shop owners were closing their doors. Security guards were shouting orders that nobody could hear over the noise. Jake stood in the center of the plaza and raised his violin. He began to play the Lambada melody, the same song that brought everyone together just days before. At first, nobody noticed. The music was too quiet compared to the alarms and shouting. But then Lisa joined him with her own violin. Then Tony Kim started singing. Soon, a dozen humans were making music in the middle of the panic. Slowly, some of the aliens stopped running. A purple octopus creature moved closer to listen. A tree-like being began to hum along. Even with danger all around them, the music was too beautiful to ignore. "What are you doing?" Vex 9, the station manager, demanded as he approached. "This is not the time for music. We are under attack." "This is exactly the time for music," Jake said without stopping his playing. "Music is what brought us together. Music is what will save us." More aliens joined the growing circle. They brought their own instruments and voices. The Lambada rhythm grew stronger and louder until it could be heard over the alarms. Then something unexpected happened. Young Clicks, the Zephyrian engineer, appeared with a group of other young aliens. They were all from different species, but they had one thing in common. They were all carrying instruments. "We came to help," Click said. "Many of us do not want this war. We want to make music, not destroy it." The group began to play along with the humans. Their music was different from Earth music, but it blended perfectly with the Lambada rhythm. The sound grew and grew until it filled the entire station. Outside, the Zephyrian fleet was preparing to fire their weapons. But something strange was happening on their ships. The music from Nexus Station was being broadcast on all communication channels. Zephyrian soldiers were hearing the beautiful sounds and beginning to question their orders. On the flagship, the Zephyrian admiral was furious. "Turn off those transmissions," he ordered. "I will not let this primitive noise corrupt my warriors." But it was too late. The music had already reached every ship in the fleet. Some Zephyrian soldiers were putting down their weapons. Others were trying to learn the melody. A few were even starting to dance. The admiral gave the order to fire, but many of his weapons officers refused to obey. They could not destroy something so beautiful. Then, something amazing happened. Ships from other species began arriving at Nexus Station. They came from different worlds and different governments, but they all had the same purpose. They had heard the music spreading across the galaxy, and they came to protect it. Within hours, the Zephyrian fleet was surrounded by hundreds of ships. There were vessels from the melodic Tentrari, the crystalline Oversight, the Peaceful Traders Union, and dozens of other species. They were not there to fight. They were there to defend the right to make music together. The Admiral realized he was outnumbered. Worse, he was fighting against an idea that his own people were beginning to believe in. The music had done what no army could do. It had turned enemies into friends and made people question why they were fighting at all. Jake continued to play his violin as the Zephyrian ships slowly withdrew. The music had won its first real battle. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. The real war for the soul of the galaxy was just starting. 5 years had passed since the battle at Nexus Station. Jake Morrison stood in the middle of New Harmony, the first city built by humans and aliens working together. Children of many different species ran through the streets, playing games that mixed Earth traditions with alien customs. Their laughter sounded like music to Jake's ears. The city was beautiful in ways that Earth cities had never been. Buildings grew like trees, designed by the plant-like Verdani people. Streets curved in patterns that helped the crystal beings focus their energy. Parks had different areas for creatures that breathed air, water, or methane gas. But everywhere there was music. Street corners had small stages where anyone could perform. Alien musicians played Earth songs on instruments made from spaceship parts. Human children learned to sing in languages that sounded like wind chimes or ocean waves. The Lambada rhythm could be heard somewhere in the city every hour of every day. Jake walked toward the central plaza, where a special ceremony was about to begin. Today marked the anniversary of their first performance at Nexus Station. But it was also the day they would remember the end of the Zephyrian Empire. The Empire had not fallen because of battles or invasions. It had collapsed because its own people stopped believing in it. When the music spread to every world, Zephyrian citizens began to question why they needed to conquer and control other species. They started making their own music, sharing their own stories, and building friendships with aliens they had been taught to hate. The Emperor had tried to stop the Cultural Revolution by banning all music and arresting anyone caught singing. But you cannot arrest an idea, and you cannot jail a melody. The music kept spreading, growing stronger with each attempt to silence it. In the end, the Empire simply crumbled. Planets declared independence not through war, but through concerts. Soldiers laid down their weapons to pick up instruments. The fear that had held the Empire together was replaced by the joy that brought everyone apart. Lisa Martinez approached Jake as he reached the plaza. She was now the director of cultural exchange for the New Galactic Alliance. Her job was to help different species share their traditions and learn from each other. "Are you ready for the ceremony?" she asked. Jake nodded and looked around the plaza. Thousands of beings had gathered from hundreds of worlds. They came to celebrate the music that had changed everything. But they also came to remember the price of that change. At the center of the plaza stood a memorial made of crystalline formations that sang when the wind passed through them. It honored all the beings who had died during the old Empire's reign of terror, including the billions of humans who perished when Earth was destroyed. Young Click stepped onto the stage. He was no longer the scared engineer who had risked everything to share a recording. Now he was a respected leader who helped former Zephyrian worlds join the new alliance based on cooperation instead of conquest. 5 years ago, Click said, a small group of human refugees taught us that music is stronger than weapons. They showed us that differences should be celebrated, not destroyed. Today, we gather not as separate species, but as one galactic community, united by the simple truth that beautiful things are worth protecting. The ceremony began with a moment of silence for those who had been lost. Then, slowly, the music started. A young girl who looked remarkably like Karolina from the old Earth videos began playing violin. Her instrument was not made from spaceship parts. It was crafted by master builders from 12 different worlds, each contributing their finest materials and techniques. As she played the Lambada melody, other musicians joined in. Humans, Zephyrians, Crystallins, Verdani, and dozens of other species created a symphony that had never been heard before. It was Earth music and alien music, and something entirely new all at the same time. Jake closed his eyes and listened. He thought about the data chip he had carried for so long, the one with Carolina's street performance from 2019. That simple recording had saved not just humanity, but the entire galaxy from a future of endless war and hatred. When the music ended, the crowd began to disperse. But Jake noticed that many beings stayed behind, forming small groups around the plaza. They were sharing songs, teaching each other new melodies, and creating impromptu performances. The formal ceremony was over, but the real celebration would continue for hours. That night, Jake sat in his small apartment and pulled out the old data chip. He no longer needed to watch the video to remember hope. Hope was everywhere now, in every song, every friendship between different species, every child who grew up thinking that music was as natural as breathing. The galaxy had become one giant street corner where everyone was welcome to play.